Toastmaster, fellow members, and guests. March 20th, 2003 was an important date in our history. Any guesses what happened on that day?
The Iraq War?
That's all right, absolutely. 10 years. 10 years of another war. I thought about it. I thought perhaps we could talk a little bit, or maybe I could talk a little bit about what happened, who the beneficiaries were, what happened, who were the winners, who were the losers in the short time that I'm allowed here. First, the cost. The cost of the war. $2,500 billion dollars. Sorry, $2.5 trillion dollars. On our side, on the American side, 4,500 people dead, 32,000 injuries, 120 to 150,000 people disabled with post-traumatic stress disorder. On the Iraqi side, 116,000 people dead, 3 million people displaced, lost their home, ran away, whatever. Cost in dollar figures, obviously huge. Who were the beneficiaries of the almost $3 trillion? As it turns out, there were 4 different groups. Clearly the oil companies, Royal Shell, BP, Bahrain Petroleum. Second interesting group, health companies. HealthNet, TriWest, and Humana. Third group is what we have known are the contractors, the civilian contractors such as Blackstone, that kind of got itself a bad name, and hundreds of thousands of others who were there for security, for road building, and all of that. And last part is the army that got a large chunk of that money. On the other side, let's take a look at an average American. What happened since 2003 to 2013? The gas. How much was the gas in 2003 in March in Florida?
$2.63.
$1.60. $3.85 now. So, unemployment up, cost of living up, and hopes for a permanent solution, I think, down. My thoughts were as well the same of the thoughts that are now being admitted in the government as well. There are essentially what happened was when we turned from liberators to occupiers as American Army, that is when we started to make mistakes and to turn the people off. Unfortunately, the longer it takes to solve a situation, which I knew from the very beginning was unsolvable, because a guerrilla war from a European history, I remember clearly the day, the March 20th, 2003, how touched and how literally sad I was, realizing that Baghdad is a city of 5 million people, and realizing what had happened shortly before I was born in Europe. The Germans occupying, they never won anything because the guerrillas will always keep chipping away at the occupying force. There is no permanent solution to that. The purpose of my talk today is to point out some of the facts and to also say this is not an anti-war speech. What I was hoping to convey is the fact that we ought to, as a nation, ought to try and consider achieving our goals together with other nations, and doing it in a way that is smart, doing it in a way which is not going to turn other nations against us, which is not going to turn all the Muslims against us because they see us now, as so many of them, as enemies. We still have valid goals, but what we should have done is to achieve them quickly together with other nations and get out. We should have a permanent solution rather than one that drags on forever. In other words, in the words of George Santayana, an American he was a philosopher born in Spain in the beginning of 20th century. He said, "Those who cannot learn from history are doomed to repeat it." I hope that's not going to happen again. Thank you.